YouTube, so you can start here with a review of the Kamen Rider Drive TK07 Kamen Rider Mach. So our 7th entry in the series is Kamen Rider Mach. He's got a nice, very tiny little package because he doesn't have a whole bunch of tire accessories or anything like that. His accessories include the little signal, coloring signals. The rear wheel signals. There we go. I'm just going to call them signals. For Magaru and Kaksan right here. As well as a little Zenrin shooter for him to hold. And of course the figure itself includes the signal, the rider signal right there, the default one. So this was the usual price of 3,200 yen in January 2015. So nothing too crazy there. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. Alright, so real quick, here is the little Zenrin shooter. Not a lot of paint outside of the front wheel right there, but it's a nice size and pretty accurate to the scale used in the show. And here is Mach. Oh, he just fell down. Alright, so right off the bat, I want to say I'm a pretty big fan of Mach's design. It's pretty neat. I like the color scheme he's got going on, so I don't really have any problems with his design. I think it's kind of cool. It has a little scarf back here. It is just connected through a little ball joint, just like a lot of the double figures and such like that. So you just pop that in. It does allow for a little bit of movement. So if you want like a little bit of a blowing in the wind sort of pose, you can pull that off, as well as maneuvering it down so that it's just hanging out on his back. So pretty cool there. Here is the little signal. It does spin quite well. And of course, you can't have Mach without his visor flipping up, because that is his cool little suit feature that I really like. It's just really neat. We haven't really had any riders that I recall that that did something like that. So it's pretty cool and really captures the whole feel of his motorcycle motif. So I really dig that. If you press it up too far, it does have tendencies to pop out. At least mine does. That might be a your mileage may vary sort of issue though. So I don't really want to call it an issue. I don't really have too many problems. He's very plain from the back. He doesn't quite have that same sort of undercard detail that Drive does. So he's very much plain from the back, but the belt is painted and sculpted pretty nice back there. Big old blue Mach driver right there, no details, so everything is more or less pretty accurate since there's no colors to differentiate the different signal bikes in there. But he's a pretty cool design. Again, very simple, but I do dig it quite a bit. So like I said, this does spin, and if you pop it off, you can see it's just a normal old tire Kokon port. So nothing crazy there, and of course you can add the Magaru or Kaksan signals, and of course you do have to spin it a little bit. These work off that those tabs, so you kind of have to line it up properly to get it to fit in. But when you do, it spins perfectly fine, and you can position it however you want to differentiate his different attacks. It doesn't have quite the same fun factor that the tires do for the normal tire Kokon figures, because the stylistic approach is very simple compared to those, while those add splashes of color and different sort of silhouettes and features. These just change a little picture, so there's not really anything too hugely neat about his. But you can get the motorcycle sort of look going on with the rear wheel and the front wheel, hence the coloring and the Zenrin, which is kind of cool. So you can get that kind of design going on too. Now the coolest thing is the fact that, like Machine Chaser, even though this doesn't happen in the show, you have an added dash of playability, because this is a tire Kokon port. Since Midnight Shadow says Shinobi in the Mach driver, I'm going to go ahead and use Midnight Shadow, and there you go. So there is the tire on his port. I will be the first to admit it looks pretty dumb. There's just not a whole lot of kind of cool going on. You lose a lot of the the arm articulation there, just because it's so freaking bulky. It does spin still, so you have that going. He can kind of like side check somebody with Funky Spike or whatever, and maybe it'll hurt. But yeah, it's definitely kind of strange. But again, it's added playability, and I'm sure kids love that sort of thing, even if it doesn't happen in the show. If you aren't at that point in the show yet, when he uses a shift car inside the Mach driver, he gets a signal with that shift car's logo in it. So like Midnight Shadow would be I think it's a shuriken sort of logo. So he would just have that, and then the Zenrin shooter like would shoot out shurikens and stuff. So that is basically how that works. You can attach Chaser's E-Circular on there too, but it looks even stranger. So again, it's added playability that I definitely appreciate, because I always dig toys that have added playability, even if it isn't something that is in the show. But it's now a question of whether or not we're going to get those signals with the shift car logos on them. Bring on the premium sets, Bandai. But of course he can use like Rumble Dump and stuff, and in the show he'll get the little drill piece that is part of Rumble Dump. So even though he doesn't get the tire, he just gets a signal with the logo on it. He can still wield Rumble Dump's drill and such like that, even though it doesn't quite hold all that well. But he's got that going on for him as well. So overall, like Machine Chaser, Mach is a figure that's a pretty nice standalone purchase. It uses the Tire Kokon other accessories, so if you do have a built-up collection, that you do unlock a little bit of extra playability that you wouldn't normally get if he was just by himself. But because his powers are all based on the signals, you don't really have to buy a whole lot of toys to get the most value out of him, and even at the core, the signals don't really change a whole lot about the toy. So if you look past not having all the signals, it makes a nice standalone piece. If you are only looking to pick up one singular figure, then you might want to just hold off for the figure art, because Mach figure art looks really freaking great. So you might just want to hold out for that. But if you're on a little bit of a budget or just impatient, the TK release of Mach is a great figure regardless if you've built up a collection thus far. And he's a pretty nice standalone piece. So thanks for watching, take care, and have a great one. Bye.